This is Rel. Welcome to the back of the classroom. First, let's start off by thanking our sponsor, Magical Pose, a clothing line for men, women, and most teens. You can find them on Instagram, Magical Pose, MAGICALPOSE, Magical Pose, and their website, magicalpose.com, MAGICALPOSE.com. Due to COVID, shipping delays range from 7 to 14 days after processing. Once you order, you'll get your first email soon after with a confirmation and receipt, and then your second email will be when it's shipped with a tracking information. I want to thank everybody who's donated to the podcast, all the likes, comments, reposts, and shares. When you save to queue it up, that also helps the platform grow. I want to thank everybody who's done that. Anybody who wants to contribute or donate to the platform, you can send your donations through Cash App, $ KINGREL 333. That's $KingRel 333. And if you want to do it via PayPal, you can do the PayPal me, Rel Jackson. So it's PAYPAL.me/RELJACKSON. Anybody want to reach out to me on social media, you can find me on Twitter, KingRel333, KINGREL 333. On Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, Rel Jackson, RELJACKSON. Find me on those platforms. Working on getting a Patreon account just to make things a little bit easier. I also know on Anchor FM, if you want to donate to the platform, that's also an option. And I work for the people. And we're going to get into today's segment. This is Thanksgiving season. Thanksgiving's right around the corner. For those who celebrate it, I'll give you a little background. Now, I want to start off by saying I got my information because, of course, I do my own research. And I believe in finding multiple sources, but I'm only going to reference one. And this reference is SmithsonianMag.com. And if you Google the myth of the Thanksgiving story and the lasting damage they imbue, you'll see exactly the article I'm referencing. So if you're not, you can hear this and, we could talk about it. So the way it started off with English people originally was celebrating Thanksgiving by fasting and prayer, which sounds about right because you got people who celebrate Lent by giving up something. People I know who actually do that. Some of them give up meat. Some just give up red meat. And it makes sense. And then it also goes on to go, in 1769, a group of pilgrims from Plymouth changed it to boost tourism, telling people pilgrims followed America. And then there was a reverend that goes by the name of Alexander Young who made a point to say that this was the first Thanksgiving, the great festival of New England, which, because it got so popular, Abraham Lincoln declared it a holiday during the Civil War. Only because it was popular, not because it was true. He was trying to build morale. And then the Indians, shouldn't say Indians, they're Native Americans. But the way the article puts it, I believe it's the Wampanoag Indians, Native Americans. They were the ones who were affected. And if you follow the wide-based understanding of Thanksgiving, the way it's articulated is pilgrims came, Native Americans met them, there was an exchange of goods and ideas. The Native Americans taught them how to survive on the land. The pilgrims taught them different things as far as the weapons and clothing and blankets to keep them warm. It was an exchange. And they were happily ever after. And we know this to be far from the truth. Because the story started to get out about how they brought them infested blankets, and the soldiers who was on the ships were sick and ill, and they was on a separate part of the ship, and then they gave those things knowing that it was riddled with germs. Now, right now, we're all in 2020. We all understand how COVID works. If this happened back then, and we all know now, if you coughing and you sick and you in that side of the house, all of that has to be cleaned and sterilized. If none of those things were done and you just gave that to people, you inherently got them sick and you helped wipe them off the planet by giving them these germ infested things that wasn't beneficial to them. And then when you listen about the American history, if the Pilgrims came and met Native Americans, how is American history not based on Native Americans before that? How are we not hearing these stories? Why isn't this part of our history? And let me give you my opinion. Back then, not everybody knew how to read and write. They definitely wasn't letting melanated people read. That wasn't something they wanted. So the people who did read and write were people who obviously were giving the information about what it is that they done. And we all know anybody who's ever had a fight or listened to somebody talk about a fight, they're going to embellish. And what I have noticed during this time, especially during COVID and during the injustices that are happening due to police brutality, is that you have a lot of people who aren't black or brown, who don't want violence, who want everybody to be treated equally and fairly, who see what's going on and they feel like, hey, y'all shouldn't be doing that because they're people. Treat everybody accordingly. How were you raised? And then you got people who, and it's not their fault, but it's time that they be woken up. The narrative that they've been given is wrong. It's false. The same way how we was given a false narrative about Thanksgiving, the things that is told to the masses is said to protect the people in power. So why would the people in power say something that's going to make them look bad? They don't want to. If police brutality was recognized by police, then they would have to correct their own system. They don't want to do that. They want to keep that force on 100. They want to keep the aggression level high. If a construction worker was scared to do construction, you tell him not to do the job. If a police officer is scared to go out into the field, he should not do that job. Because those false narratives that you do affects people now, the next generation, to come. Because that man, that brother, that uncle, that father, that son that you killed was doing something for somebody else. Whether they was helping their mother, their daughter, their niece, their nephew, their brother, their cousins with providing food, with helping pay bills, with helping out in the house, with helping grandma. He is no longer an effective resource. He is now removed from the household. He's not coming home. And instead of holding those people accountable so we can keep our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, our aunts and our uncles, our nieces and our nephews safe and brought back home, there's a false narrative that makes them look like they were in the wrong. So now we're going to condemn them and keep the people in power who was hurting our people stay in position of power. And I say that to say this false narrative that they've given Thanksgiving, and I'm not saying don't enjoy the food of Thanksgiving, but understand people, and I'm gonna give y'all something, people don't stray too far from who they are. The nature of the beast is always there. You just have to look at it. So there's Thanksgiving, supposed to be this big feast where everybody ate, right? What comes directly after that? these they call it Black Friday, these sales, and everybody, you see it on the news, you see it on social media, act a fool. They're running in the stores. There is no regard for anybody. They're running, getting what they want. They're snatching things out of babies' hands, out of other people's carts because they can't find it on the shelf. People are disrespecting one another. But the day before, everybody was just sitting down having a great meal with their family. But at the stroke of midnight, it was everybody for themselves. What happened to what happened to the togetherness? What happened to the thankfulness? It's out the window. But I say that to reflect on, if you look at the actual story, what do you mean I say actual? If you look at the story, because it's a different perspective. I can't say because I wasn't there. But if you look at the different perspective and you go, so there was no meal. There was actually a war going on. And during most wars during that time, there was a lot of rape. There was a lot of pillaging. And Black Friday looks like pillaging. Everybody's running to get products. Yes, you're paying for it. No one's saying anyone's stealing. But you are acting like you're pillaging the stores so you can run to the register and purchase it so you can take it home and show everybody what you got. So if we're reenacting what happened, there was a war, day one, and then day two, there's the pillaging. There's the stores. Everybody running over, disrespecting each other. And we got social distancing. I want to see what's going to happen. I'm definitely glued into social media on that Friday and Saturday to see all the videos going up because I'm genuinely interested in seeing how things going to play out because this is our people. We've all gone through this COVID situation. You can't go to Costco or these big stores without, distancing and making sure a certain amount of people in a capacity. So I've worked at retail. I know this is where a lot of businesses make their money. And the money they make from November to December, the last quarter, almost doubles, triples, but it definitely surpasses what they made for the whole year. Because they're moving so much merchandise. They have all these rebates. But again, that's just to get you to buy. And it's an effective tool. It works. People are definitely spending money. I don't know how many TVs people need, but every year it seems like people are buying new TVs. I don't see that many TVs in the garbage, and it don't look like the real estate's getting any better. So how many rooms you really got? How many TVs you really need? You know what I'm saying? For this COVID situation, they got people feeling like they have to disrespect somebody and not take your time and pace yourself. And then at the same time, you got to also understand these companies are doing this on purpose. This is a trend. Everybody knows people go crazy for these things. So why not give people the option to get it in the store, put enough in the stores, and then allow people to buy it online and have it delivered to their houses? So those who didn't get it, I can get it online. If that's the case. Because we all supposed to be looking after one another. But that's not how it goes. So with Thanksgiving and then the day after, and then you look back at how Thanksgiving is taught to us by American history, but we don't hear about the Native Americans, the Wampanoag people. Why we don't hear about them? Why we not hearing about what they were going through? That should be part of Thanksgiving. Part of our background in history when Americans talk about everything that happened on the land, not just the people that immigrated here. Because if that's the case, American history ain't nothing but an extended version of England, London's history. Call it that. The immigration of people from England making their way to the Americas, where people were already at. The article will tell you people were here already. This wasn't, they found it, they immigrated. So imagine if somebody walked in your house and they started telling you what you're going to do and then start telling everybody how they founded your house. And they're going to tell stories for all people coming after them to hear how they founded it. You're going to feel violated. Your kids are going to feel violated, especially if you're going to keep producing and your children are going to have children and their children are going to have children. Your history is lost, but you've been there before them. It's not fair. It's not right. So we have to stop teaching the false narrative. We have to stop believing the false narratives. We have to tell those people who are writing these history books, you got to start over. You have to get rid of these false narratives because we know better. And we can't allow our children to be taught the false narratives because we're teaching our children lies. You can't learn from the past mistakes if the stories they're teaching you are lies. You can't learn from a lie. You can't improve your situation if what you're being taught are lies. So if Thanksgiving, in actuality, there was a war going on, and then the Allies came, tricked you, helped you win that war, and then turned around and stabbed you in the back, then that's the lesson we should be teaching for Thanksgiving. And then we can sit down and break bread with the people that we love and we care about that's not going to stab us in the back, but the people that were on the front line with us. So my version of Thanksgiving this year, I'm going to be thankful for the people who ride with me, not the people who are going to stab me in the back, and not the people who are against me. I'm not against anybody. I have no enemies. I don't see the point in even arguing anymore. You're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to how you feel. It is not my job to convince you of anything. This is the back of the classroom. We're going to talk about information. And then you can give me some information. And it might contradict what I'm saying. And that's okay. I'm more than willing and happy to hear it. I didn't read this article and go, oh, that's not what my class taught me, and delete. I don't want to hear it. No, I'm more than happy to hear different dialogue and different ideas and different perspectives. I'm just sharing you one that I've heard and I thought was pretty interesting. Imagine Thanksgiving supports the idea of manifest destiny. Because if the propaganda is erasing the history of the native people, and by right, people who came here who wasn't already here feel like this is theirs, it was meant for them to have, then that just goes to show how little your life means to them. So I can understand people in power fearing losing power, because if this narrative is corrected and then we're like, oh, you guys, y'all guys aren't giving us good information, y'all gotta go. We're gonna put people up there who are actually honest, people who are going to look out for our well-being. We got to get you out of there. But guess who are the people in power? Popular people. They look for the popular vote. Who's most popular? People who want to do good or people who want to do wrong? Who's running the world? Good-minded people, good, wholesome people, people who want the best for people, people who understand there's things going on and we got to put things in perspective. They're shutting down New York City because COVID is an issue. Indoor dining is going to be suspended. Outdoor dining is shut down after a certain time. Certain other states are having a curfew because they want to stop the spread of the virus. I get it. Appreciate it. They're minimizing. They want to say you can't have a certain amount of people. They want you to minimize how many people you have over for Thanksgiving dinner. I can understand that. But the sad part is, if my kids go to school and my kids interact with other kids, I go to work, I interact with other adults. I don't live with my grandparents. I don't live with my parents. So if I'm going to take my child who's around other children with me who are around other adults, around my grandmother, my grandparents, my parents, and we know the elderly and the older are more susceptible to this virus, does that mean they have to stay alone because we don't want to risk? I mean, not to sound selfish, But at the same time, I don't want to sound mean either. Like, why should my grandmother be left alone? Why should my parents be left alone? Because this virus is harmful. So we got a couple of days before Thanksgiving. Let's boost our immune system. Let's fast. Let's keep ourselves healthy. Let's check our temperature. Let's make sure that our kids are good. Let's make sure that we are good. Let's make sure our people are good. And even if we can't stay, let's stop by. Let's give them a call. Make sure, they're good and they're protected. And let's stop by and make sure they're okay. Let's make sure our elderly, our grandparents, our parents, let's make sure they're good. Let's make sure our families and our friends are all right. Not everybody lives with people. Some people live alone. Let's check on them. Let's make sure they're good. Let's make sure nobody feels like they're forgotten this Thanksgiving season. Let's make sure everybody has at least the minimum of what they need. It's starting to get cold. COVID's going to ramp up. I'm definitely thankful for being able to maintain my way of living with a few sacrifices. But at the end of the day, we can still do for those who can't do for themselves. In the same way how this Thanksgiving story, we can look at the different perspectives and we can understand that there was a people who was taken advantage of. And then the story and the narrative was changed so that the people in power who did it don't look like complete animals and monsters. Let's not allow the same thing that happened in 2020 going into 2021. Let's not allow the false narratives to keep being pushed. Let's not allow people who are sheep to be fooled by people who are in power because they want to maintain their power. Let's come together as a people. Let's expose the false narratives. Let's get together and let's push what actually happened. Let's push the facts. And let's get the people who want to continue the abuse of power because they have the power. Let's get them up out of there. I don't think most people realize, even with this election, you got two major parties. And as I'm paying attention to the people they decided, because the parties can easily say, no, we don't want you. We want somebody else to take lead. To my understanding, more Republicans voted for Trump. And it was close. Now, and it's ironic that Trump is close to winning, and yet the media has been bashing Trump and supporting Biden. But yet Trump is still close. He still has a platform to argue, if you do a recount, I bet you I'd win. If nobody likes him, if nobody think he was doing a good job, it should have been a landslide. Biden should have been the victorious. But it's not a landslide. It's not even close to a landslide, which means there's a narrative out there that people know and that the majority of people aren't being exposed to. So we got to do more research. We got to dig deep into it. Because the same way this Thanksgiving story has been changed over the course of years, those Native Americans, the Wampanoag people, they're no longer here. And that's something to think about, because if we keep allowing the false narratives to continue, we may not be here. Our future children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, generations to come might not even be here. And although, yes, you lived your life and you've enjoyed the things that you've gotten to enjoy, if you have children, if you care about anybody who's younger than you, when they outlive you, you leave the planet to them. What do they have to work with? Do they have a system in place that's going to protect them in case something happens? I live in New York. I personally think New York should have concealed carry, open carry laws. the system we have in place don't make sense. People who have illegal weapons have the advantage over regular civilians because it's illegal for a regular civilian to carry a handgun. If I can make any change, it would be that. New York needs to be a concealed carry state, just like Pennsylvania, just like Florida. We need to have a concealed carry in place so that if something pops off and somebody's trying to mug grandma or somebody's trying to knock somebody off over there at Central Park, that person can defend themselves and explain it to the police when they come. If you can do it in Florida, if you could do it in Pennsylvania, and I'm in New York, so I'm going somewhere far and it's somewhere close. If it can happen in neighboring states, it can happen in New York. I'm not gonna say New York is smarter than, but I'm gonna say we are as smart as, and we can be able to articulate ourselves if and when a situation pops off. I don't want my family to be in a situation where they have to be a victim first and hope they live through it in order for the police to do their job and investigate. I'd rather be able to defend my life and then explain to the police what happened, because I got a family I want to take care of. I have a daughter. I have a mother. I have family and friends. I have people who rely on me. And if the laws of New York don't change to help me with that, I might just have to leave New York. Because as great of a place as it is, I've been to other places and I feel a lot more comfortable knowing I can defend myself and it's perfectly legal to. So if you don't like the conditions of places, sometimes you just gotta get up and go somewhere where the conditions are more to your needs. But I'm gonna stick it out for a little while and see how this plays out. But if it don't work in my favor, I'm gonna go somewhere where it does. And what I'm thankful for is having my friends and family to show me these things, and it put me in a position to be able to explain to my child, my mother, my father, my grandparents, what's actually going on and how things have changed and what I've learned and how I can share it with people and get everybody on the same page. This way we grow together as a people. When they say knowledge is power, they wasn't lying, because this information here, I'm telling you, it'll change the narrative. They got you looking at people and they got you looking at the government and the system in place. Because if this is fact, then why is our government still promoting or still allowing the false narratives to be out there? It clearly said Abraham Lincoln declared it a holiday. If it's not a fact, look, Abe, sorry, we're going to bounce this one out. This one doesn't apply. This is definitely not American. We're supposed to be united as a people, not separated. You can't stand under a flag and say united when you're separating people. You're pushing, and your agenda is definitely a false narrative. And if we're not going to speak on the history of all people, we can't stand under the same flag and say we're united. America is supposed to be the land of everyone, not the few. So check this out. The Myths of Thanksgiving Story and the Lasting Damage They Imbue. The SmithsonianMagazine.com. And give me some feedback. Let me know what y'all think. I think it was a very interesting article. I think it definitely gives something to think about. It's definitely a conversation piece. I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. I hope everybody stays healthy. We'll say when it comes to these Black Friday sales, I don't think it's that serious for you to put yourself in harm's way, health and physical injury, being stepped on and pushed and assaulted, because these are all material things. Let's not be materialistic. Let's focus on what's important. It should be your health, physical, mental, spiritual, your family, your friends, and coming together as a people, enjoying each other's company, growing and learning as a people, and becoming one. Thank you. And that's the end of the back of the classroom.